BroadSign has been in the digital signage industry for over a decade now, and ever since day one of DSE, we've been proud exhibitors. We're the conference sponsor this year, just like in years past, and we have a lot going on in our booth. We have live demos of our newly upgraded BroadSign administrator platform. So we've never done this before. We have sales reps walking around with Microsoft Surfaces, and we're able to show off our modern and intuitive user interface in about 10 minutes time. So that's something that's really special for us. We also have a totem in place to exhibit BroadSign Mobile. People are incorporating mobile into their digital out-of-home deployments more and more now, so we wanted to show off that product. We also have wayfinding examples and a shopping mall, and there's a lot going on at the booth, and cupcakes too. A couple of years ago, there was a campaign in London run by British Airways called Look Up. And people loved it because it had a child in it, and when a flight would fly over the screen with this campaign playing, the child would point at the airplane, and the number, like the flight number, would come up saying where it was coming from, where it was going, and people really loved this. It actually won a Cannes Lion Ad Award for its creativity. And at that moment, I don't think people realized per se, but dynamic content kind of came into the limelight, and ever since then we've had a lot of customers asking for what us is kind of simple. We've been doing it for a long time, but things such as playing different content depending on the weather, for example, or the time of day, and really just making sure that content that's playing on digital signage screens is created for our industry and it's not being reused from television or online. So that's a really hot topic right now. And of course, data. There's a lot of data exhibitors at the show. People are very interested in being able to harness data in a lot of different ways to really understand the audience looking at their screens and providing this, especially if they're an advertisement, to the advertisers and the brands who want to target specific people. Regardless of anybody's industry background in this particular space, my biggest advice to somebody who's starting a network in digital signage is to really make sure that they are deploying screens that are going to respond to a need. So digital signage is very cool. We're seeing a lot of exciting different types of creative in places like Times Square and in shopping malls, but ultimately to make a network successful, you need to attract eyeballs. And to do that, consumers need to be able to look at a screen and have it answer questions that they might have or make their lives easier in some way. So instead of just going into a venue and saying, oh, I'd like to install a screen here, make sure that it's responding to a need and then go for it. And I always kind of say, it's not about more screens bringing more success. It's about screens placed strategically to make sure that the deployment is a winner. Building on that actually is making sure that you really understand the vertical that you're going to be in and what's exactly needed of your network. Some people can get really caught up in all the technology, and they might want to buy the best of the best for all components of their digital signage deployment, and that's not always what they need. Sometimes if they're running very simple content, for example, they might need a media player that's $150 versus $1,000. And so by talking to a bunch of different vendors at a trade show like DSE, they can really understand what the needs are, and this way their CapEx is not going to be crazy, and they'll be able to make back that money much quicker than otherwise. I mentioned with regards to opportunities and hot topics, data, content, and the buzzword at the moment is programmatic. Programmatic has a lot of different meanings, but essentially we're looking at it in terms of automating the sales and buying process. And what this will do is there are advertisers out there who have a lot of money to spend when it comes to promoting brands. And they're overlooking digital out-of-home right now to a certain extent because it's difficult to buy, it can be confusing, it's still very manual, and I don't think, frankly, that they're 100% educated on what they can be doing with the screens in our space. So to respond to that, more and more people are talking about the issue, which is great. And I do think that it's going to get a little bit more chaotic before everything snaps into place and we have some solutions. So I would say at next year's DSE, we can be on the lookout for some solutions to this issue and exponential increases in what is going on in our industry. So it's very exciting times. DSE is a must attend for vendors and network operators and consultants alike, especially as the industry is growing into a direction that we haven't seen before. It's important to reconnect with people that you may have really long-term relationships with, or that meet new ones as well. Just to have everybody in one space is essential to be able to talk about issues such as programmatic and find ways to resolve them quickly and in a way that does everybody a favor, I guess, in terms of making sure that everybody wins at the end. DSE has benefited my career in a way that makes me look on the show very fondly. When I was writing a script to promote BroadSign's media player for the launch that took place at DSE 3 years ago, it was my second week on the job, and I had asked all of the VPs what they would want in the script, and I wrote it out. I was very proud that I have no technical background before joining BroadSign. And the VP of Technology, Brian Mongeau, comes over and he was laughing because I had written 1080p as 10ADP. So I very quickly received a lesson on screen resolutions, and it's kind of been like that ever since, but DSE is kind of that moment where it's time to look at trends going on, making sure that I understand them so that I can then help educate everybody else here about them. So I'm very appreciative of the conference for that. DSE, simply amazing.